Hey folks, welcome back. I have your latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending September 7th, 2022. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Let me tell you what I mean by that. And I'm going to give you an example. We're working with a buyer family. Now, they are pre-approved for $1.9 million. But they were very clear to me when we first started looking that $1.5 million was the most they wanted to spend. And they did their calculations on what it would cost to cover the mortgage based on them buying for $1.5 million and their lifestyle. And they thought they're very happy and comfortable with $1.5 million. And they told me the neighborhood they wanted to be in for good reasons, because it was close to the child's school and they've got other family living in the area and they want the kids to grow up together. Beautiful. So we're looking for properties. $1.5 million in a certain neighborhood that's important to them. But as we start looking, and the properties we saw were really nice, but as we start looking at more and more properties, the neighborhood starts to change. The price point starts to change. We're starting to look at, they're sending me listings of properties priced at 1.8, 1.9, $2 million. And I said to them, look, I'm happy to show you those properties, but I just want to remind you, I don't know if anything has changed, but initially you were very, very clear that the most you wanted to spend was 1.5, and the neighborhood you wanted to be in for such and such reasons. Has something changed? Are those things no longer important to you that were very important early on? And in conversation, you know what? They got caught up in the hype. They got caught up in the wow, we can get a bigger house. Wow, we can afford it. We're pre-approved for something bigger. And sometimes as a real estate consultant, like, my job is not to force people one way or another, but to help them see things sometimes that maybe they're not always seeing. And this family, I had to remind them of the fact that what they initially wanted, we're now veering way off, which is fine if something has changed. I just wanted to bring it back into their mind what we were looking for. I have another couple that I'm looking for a house for, and initially they were very clear they did not want a condo. Now, their budget would easily get them a really nice condo, but they were very clear they didn't want a condo apartment. They didn't want to live in a box in the sky, was the words that they said to me. But they were happy with any freehold property, even the smallest freehold property, which is what their budget would allow. So as we're looking at properties, they're not liking any of these freehold properties, and then they're kind of sending me now listings for condos. So I had to remind them, say, folks, you told me you didn't want to live in a box in the sky. Now, has something changed? Or if we're not finding the freehold that you want for your budget, maybe we got to wait. Maybe we got to relook at buying in 6 months from now or in a year from now. Maybe that's an option for you. As a consultant, we need to bring these things to our clients. And to remind you out there, those of you that are looking to buy, just because you could doesn't mean you should. You're pre-approved for here, well, maybe buying at this level is better. Just because you could get that big home at that price, but it's 45 minutes, an hour's drive further, how's that going to change your quality of life? So you got to sometimes look at what makes sense, and oftentimes it's what you originally thought of was important to you still should be important to you. That's my message for today. If you think this video can help somebody please pass it along. Let's get into the numbers. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, it's really simple. Below this video, in the description, you'll find a link to a calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you. This way, I'll know ahead of time and I'll make sure my schedule's organized so we can talk about whatever's on your mind. Is this the calm before the storm? Well, we've had a pretty steady August when it comes to prices. We just had a rate announcement. We expect more. Our prices getting ready to plummet. Is it just going to get nuts with prices coming down, affordability being impossible with these higher interest rates? We're going to see. Let me tell you what's happening right now, though, for week ending September 7th. If you feel you know where prices are going, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so I have here for the City of Toronto, broken down by week for a whole year. Now, let me just be clear, because I get the comments of people thinking that some of these numbers here have multiple home types mixed in them. This is just for the detached market. So there's only detached properties calculated in these numbers here. So for week ending September 7th, sales came way down from the previous few weeks. 81 detached properties were sold across the City of Toronto for week ending August the 7th. Now, keep in mind, why did sales go down? Well, there was the Labor Day long weekend in the middle of this week ending September 7th. So for sure that's a factor. And when we go back to week ending August 3rd, well, there was a long weekend there also, which is one of the lowest sales. When we go back to the previous lower sales for July 6th, well, there was a long weekend there too. That was Canada Day. So long weekends, Easter weekend, anytime there's a holiday, we see sales kind of drop for that week. So 81 detached properties were sold. 13 of those were sold at $2 million or more, and 13 is not by all means a large number for us as far as properties selling at $2 million or more. An average sold price came down just a few dollars. It's now sitting at $1,518,000. $1,518,000 is 8% lower than last year's average sold price. And we've been lower now than last year's average sold price for a few weeks in a row. If we look at average sold price, we said it's 8% lower than last year's average sold price. The median price, again, just for detached properties and just for the City of Toronto, median price is $1,332,000. which is 1% lower than last year's median price. But here's where I say, the calm. If the storm's coming, that's another discussion, but here's where we are right now. If we go back the last 4 to 6 weeks, the dotted line here, that's a 4-week moving average. Well, it's pretty steady. It really hasn't moved that much. And if we look at the median moving average here also, it's been pretty steady. Prices have been pretty even keel for the month of August and leading into the first week of September. Year-to-date sales, we have 28% fewer sales this year for detached properties in the City of Toronto than we had last year. And of the 81 that sold, 32%, about a third, sold at list price or more. Listings, we have 8% fewer listings this year than last year, and that's year to date. And active listings is a bit lower at the midnight of September 7th, there was 1,167 detached properties available for sale. Months of inventory has climbed up. We're now sitting at 3.3 months of inventory. And you could see, we've been in the 3 range for a while now, and prices have been kind of steady when it comes to, again, the last 4 to 6 weeks. But that's all of Toronto. And keep in mind, all of Toronto, the average months of inventory is sitting at 3.3 for all of Toronto. Let's break it down a little bit between West, Central, and East Toronto. Here's West Toronto. 24 detached properties were sold, which is way down from the previous week of 36. Only 2 of them sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price climbed up. It's now sitting at $1,352,000. And when we look at average sold price, well, 1,352,000 is 7% higher than last year. Median price is the same as what it was a year ago. There's really no difference there. And if we look at the 4-week moving average, you could kind of see what's happening there. It has been pretty steady. Well, look at months of inventory. 4.3 months of inventory for West Toronto. Now, all of Toronto is 3.3. West Toronto is 4.3 months of inventory. Here's Central Toronto. 23 detached properties were sold. 10 of those were at $2 million or more. Almost half were at $2 million. Average sold price is $2,234,000, which is 18% lower than last year's average sold price. Again, this is just for Central Toronto. Median price of $1.8 million is 12% lower than last year's median price. And months of inventory is 4.5. So West Toronto is 4.3. Central Toronto is 4.5 months of inventory. All of Toronto was 3.3. There's got to be, East Toronto is bringing down the months of inventory average. Well, 34 detached properties were sold in East Toronto. Average sold price has come down. It's sitting at $1,151,000. Only one property sold at $2 million or more. $1,151,000 is 9% lower than last year's average sold price. The median price of $1.1 million is 8% lower than last year's median price. And when we look at the 4-week moving average, well, for all of Toronto, kind of looked like it was pretty steady. Same with the median price, looked like it was pretty steady. But for East Toronto, kind of looks like, well, it is sloping downwards over the last 4 to 6 weeks. So all Toronto is not the same. And this is just West, Central, and East. These are still big areas. Well, what happens when you zoom it down even lower and get into specific neighborhoods? You'll see that behavior's changing. I'm here giving you an overall average. So for East Toronto, prices have been sloping down in the last 4 to 6 weeks. Months of inventory, however, has not changed much. It's sitting at 1.7. So if we say all of Toronto is 4.3, here's a summary. All of Toronto, we said, is 3.3. Well, West is 4.3 months of inventory. Central's 4.5. It's the East at 1.7 that's affecting the overall average and bringing it down. But depending on where you're shopping or where you're selling, behaviors, months of inventory, the whole buying or selling atmosphere is different. Let's take a closer look at semis now. 21 semi-detached were sold. 5 of those were sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $1,249,000, which is 3% higher than last year's average sold price. Median price of $1.2 million is 9% higher than last year's median price. And when you look at the 4-week moving average for both, it's kind of up and down a little bit, and that's just, there's not a lot of sales going on, so the prices will be affected quite a bit. But months of inventory has been climbing up. It's now sitting at 2.8 months of inventory. Townhouses, only 6 freehold townhouses were sold. 1 of those was at $1 million or more. Average sold price is at $1,084,000. $1,084,000 is 3% lower than last year's average sold price. This is for freehold townhouses. And the median price of $931,000 is 13% lower than last year's median price. And months of inventory is shot way up to 3.8 months of inventory for townhouses. Let's look at condos. 132 condos were sold. It's not that much. It sounds, 132, when I compare to the detached market, 132 sounds a lot. But for condos, it's way down than what we've been selling the previous week. But remember, Labor Day weekend, August 3rd was also a very low week in sales, and that was the long weekend also. So 132 were sold. 16 of those were at $1 million or more. Average sold price has been coming down. It's now sitting at $724,000. 724 is this year's average sold price. Last year it was 725. There's basically 0% change this year versus last year. And when we look at the median price, it's higher by 5% year over year. The median price is 670. Now for average sold price of 724, I basically said, if I go back, I said there's 0% change. In this numbers here, I'm rounding the percentage. In fact, it's 0.1% lower, the average sold price, than what it was a year ago. But if we look at the 4-week moving average, over the last 4 to 6 weeks, for average sold price, it's just slight, it's pretty steady, but just slightly sloping down. The median price, we could see more of a difference over the last 4 to 6 weeks for condos. It's coming down a bit there. Year-to-date sales, 29% fewer sales in condos this year versus last year. Less than a third, 30% of those 132 condos sold at list price or more. Listings is 6% fewer listings this year than what we were listing last year. Active listings, the amount of condos actually available for sale, is down slightly versus the previous week. Months of inventory has gone up. Think about it. Active listings, it came down but just a little bit, but sales came way down, and when you do the math that way, for sure, there's more. It's going to take us longer to buy up the inventory at the current rate that we're buying condos. So months of inventory is up at 4.4. Now, between 4 months of inventory and 6 months of inventory, it's a balanced market. And you see a lot of the behaviors out there right now. It very much feels like a balanced market. Here's the summary of all the months of inventory. They're climbing. They're getting up there. Even though these are, technically below the 4 months when we're at 3.3 and 3.8. If we talk about the detached and you break the City of Toronto down, I showed you earlier, a lot of the sections are in a balanced market situation. So that's the market that we're in. It's a balanced market right now. In some situations, it's going to feel like it's very much a buyer's market. And in some rare situations, they're just fewer and far between. It's going to feel like a seller's market in some situations. But generally speaking, we're in a balanced market. It's calm. It's a bit steady. Prices are pretty steady, even though they're going up and down. However, what's about to happen over the next few months is so important. And, we got the new rate hike. It's getting harder and harder. Affordability is shrinking. These are the things that are going to affect the real estate market. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.